Bailey calling from the District Attorney's Office here in Nashville. Bricen Rivers was released from custody. He was supposed to report straight to a GPS company and be put on a GPS monitor, and he was not to leave Davidson County. But as soon as he was released, he did not report to that GPS monitoring company, and he has not been heard from. So I want to make sure that Lauren is safe.
It's bad enough that he's released, but they don't even know where he is.
Right. I mean, it's just disgusting.
Welcome back, and thanks for being here. The story I have for you today is one that took place less than 2 weeks ago. And the family of the woman who was murdered saw her death coming, and for months before it happened. However, their cries for help were ignored, and not just once, but multiple times. Lauren Johansen was born on October 30th, 2001, to her mother, Tamala Johansson, and her father, Lance Johansson. She also had 3 siblings. Lauren was going to school to become an RN, or registered nurse, and she was on track to obtain this goal in early 2025. After she achieved that, Lauren's goal was then to become a nurse practitioner. Lauren was smart, kind, beautiful, and loving. She was the kind of person who would do anything to help animals, her family, or pretty much anyone else who was in need of help. It's said that everyone she ever met loved her immediately, and Lauren brought a smile to everyone's face. Lauren was also a regular volunteer at multiple animal shelters, and she also adopted as many rescue animals as she could. Lauren would take her dog Bentley Joe and her cat Marley everywhere she went. She would also take her rescue horse Coco with her everywhere she went, had he fit in her Jeep. Lauren had helped care for her siblings, who had been born premature, and also have many disabilities. When her mom, who was a nurse, could no longer work, Lauren stepped up and helped her father care for them. Bubbly and popular Lauren grew up in Gulfport, Mississippi, which is also where she met and started dating Bricen Rivers, who was the star player on his high school's football team. Now, Lauren and Bricen's relationship was not a good one. When Bricen would get drunk, he would get violent towards Lauren. He was also very controlling and jealous of any men that Lauren interacted with. By the time Lauren had graduated high school and she was going off to the University of Southern Mississippi, she decided that once and for all, she was ending things with Bricen. But Lauren's family claimed that Bricen had been obsessed with Lauren, and he had stalked her on and off for years. He would also start fights with any men that Lauren tried to date, and he had broken into her apartment at one point. So Bricen had previously received several misdemeanor charges in South Mississippi, including charges from 2020 out of Hattiesburg for simple assault and disturbance of family in a dwelling or house. Then, in December of 2023, Lauren called up her family, and they were shocked to hear that she had reconciled with Bricen, and they were planning on taking a vacation together to Nashville, Tennessee. While on their vacation in Nashville on December 11th, Lauren and Bricen played Topgolf, attended a museum, and then headed over to a bar to watch a football game. At this bar, however, Bricen suddenly flew into a drunken rage, saying that Lauren was talking to another man. And after Lauren and Bricen left the bar, things would only further escalate from there. Once inside their car, Bricen grabbed Lauren's phone so she couldn't call anyone for help, and he wouldn't let her out of the vehicle. He had then driven to a parking lot where he parked the car and began attacking Lauren. He held her captive in that vehicle for close to an hour until his mother, Chelsea Rivers, overheard screaming in the background after she had called her son. When Bricen's mother asked him if he had hurt Lauren, Bricen responded back to his mother by saying that there was blood everywhere. Bricen's mother, Chelsea, had then called the police as well as Lauren's father, Lance. Of course, Lauren's father would also contact the authorities after hearing from Bricen's mother. He told them that Bricen was holding his daughter hostage. Then he helped police track down his daughter by using an app on her phone. When officers found the couple, Lauren was still trapped inside the vehicle with Bricen, and she was frantically banging on the windows, screaming for help. And just as the highly intoxicated Bricen was reaching into the back seat for a gun, police were able to apprehend him. Lauren was completely covered in blood and had nothing but her bra and panties on. She had a laceration to her head, her eyes were swollen shut, and the rental car that they had been in had blood spattered on the front seats. Officers would search the vehicle, and they found a 9mm handgun that was covered in blood lying on the floorboard. Police also found 2 rocks in the car that were covered in blood. Bricen was then placed under arrest and charged with 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping. Not only was Lauren covered in blood, but Bricen was also covered in blood, none of which was his own. It was on his hands and smeared on his face, as seen in booking photos. Lauren would be in the hospital recovering from her horrible beating for 2 days. And while there, she spoke with police and told them exactly what had happened between her and Bricen in the car that day, including that Bricen had pistol whipped her and that she had tried to slam on the horn multiple times in an attempt to get someone's attention to come and save her. So once Lauren was released from the hospital, she went back home with her father, who had traveled from Mississippi to Tennessee to be with his daughter. Also, not long after, Lauren took out a restraining order against Bricen. But that was not going to stop him from contacting Lauren. In fact, Bricen made multiple phone calls to her while he was in jail. And in many of these phone calls, he tried to coerce Lauren into falsely testifying at his trial. Now, due to this, Bricen was indicted by a grand jury on a total of 4 counts instead of just his original 2. He was indicted on his 2 original counts of aggravated kidnapping, and now 1 count of aggravated stalking, and 1 count of coercion of a witness. Both Lauren and Lance would attend a preliminary hearing on December 18th, and Lance would say that his daughter had been hit over 100 times. He also said to the judge that if Bricen was released from jail, Bricen would certainly kill his daughter Lauren. But Lauren's account of what had happened in the car that day had changed from the time she was talking to police in the hospital to the time that she was giving testimony in court. But Bricen had convinced her to lie so he wouldn't be facing such serious charges. Lauren told the court that she had fallen asleep in the car that day, and when she had woken up, she began hitting Bricen, and, for some reason, pulled out a chunk of his hair. She said that she had then gotten out of the car, and when she had gotten back in, she took a metal water bottle and threw it at him. But the police didn't see any injuries whatsoever on Bricen when they arrived on the scene. Additionally, Lauren told the court that she did not remember Bricen attacking her, and the only reason that her eyes were swollen was because they had struggled over the pistol. Lauren claimed that Bricen had never hit her with a closed fist, and the only reason she had been in just her underwear that day was because she was hot. But the judge had records of all the phone calls that Bricen had made to Lauren while he'd been in jail. So it looked like in this case, there was a high likelihood that Bricen would be convicted due to the police body camera footage, as well as audio recordings that they had obtained from inside the car. Following this court hearing, Bricen Rivers remained in jail, and his bond was set at $251,000. This hadn't been the first time that Bricen had attacked Lauren. It was closer to the 5th or 6th time that he had beaten her. So it wasn't going to suddenly just stop. Things were only going to get worse. But Lauren still had her restraining order out against Bricen, and both she and her father Lance were supposed to be notified if there were any court proceedings, as well as if Bricen got released from jail for any reason. Then, in March of 2024, Bricen requested to have his bond reduced, and on April 3rd, that request was granted, and his bond was reduced down to $150,000, with specific conditions if he was to make that bail and be released. First, he was ordered not to leave Davidson County, Tennessee, not to communicate with Lauren, not to possess any weapons, and to wear a GPS ankle monitor. Also noted on his bond order, Bricen was not to be released from jail after 4 p.m. This was to ensure that he could get fitted with the court-ordered GPS monitoring company, Tracking Solutions, which closed at that time. Bricen and his mother also asked the judge for the conditions of his bond to be changed, so that he could live in Mississippi instead of in Davidson County, Tennessee, where he had been arrested. The judge, however, denied the request, so Bricen arranged with some family to stay with them in Nashville. Then, after 7 months in jail, on June 24th, 2024, Bricen's mother bailed him out of jail with $15,000, 10% of his bond, which is standard. The thing is, the jail had released Bricen after 4 p.m. without a GPS ankle monitor. Since the ankle monitor company that Bricen had been ordered to go to by a judge was closed, the bail agent instead took him to a different company called Freedom Monitoring Services. Freedom Monitoring claimed that when Bricen had been brought in, his bond order was not available. So apparently they just took his word that he was allowed to return to Mississippi. And they did not set the GPS tracking perimeter to Davidson County. Cool. This is even though it was specifically stated on Bryce's release form that he was not to leave Davidson County. So he returned back to Mississippi, where Lauren was. It wasn't until the following Friday, June 28th, that Freedom Monitoring said they received Bricen's bond paperwork. And around 5 p.m. on that Friday, they had also received a no communication alert from Bryce's ankle monitor. So they contacted him and told him he immediately needed to go back to Tennessee to have a new one fitted. Bricen's probation officer also reached out to Tracking Solutions, who told her that Bricen had never reported to them. Tracking Solutions then sent a violation report to the district attorney, and a warrant was issued for Bricen's arrest. It was at that point that the district attorney finally contacted Lauren's dad, Lance, to let him know that Bricen had not reported for his GPS ankle monitor, and he had also not been heard from. But this message would not be heard by Lance until the following Monday, July 1st. But they still didn't tell Lance until an entire 4 days after Bricen had been released. What took them so long? And I don't even think they called Lauren. I think they just called Lance. She's an adult. Why would you not call her too? Hello? On Saturday, June 29th, Bricen arrived back in Tennessee, and he was fitted with a new GPS ankle monitor. By the correct company this time. On July 1st, Freedom Monitoring Services called up Bricen to let him know that his GPS monitor was down to only 6% and he needed to charge it. And he would, but at the same time, he would let the court know that he would not be able to make it for his trial the next day, on July 2nd, because he didn't have a ride. He was told he had to show up anyways. So on July 1st, when Lance finally received the message that the district attorney had left him 3 days prior, he tried to reach out to his daughter, Lauren, but he couldn't get a hold of her. He would later end up receiving a text message from her, but it really didn't sound like it was her.
This is Bailey calling from the district attorney's office here in Nashville. Bricen Rivers was released from custody. He was supposed to report straight to a GPS company and be put on a GPS monitor, and he was not to leave Davidson County. But as soon as he was released, he did not report to that GPS monitoring company, and he has not been heard from, so I want to make sure that Lauren is safe.
The next day, July 2nd, at 4:01 in the morning, Lance received a notification saying that Lauren's Life 360 tracker had been turned off. Lauren's sister also called her father later and told him that when she had woken up, she had found the front door open, her sister missing, and the front doorbell camera had been destroyed. Lauren's family then immediately reported her as missing to the Hattiesburg Police Department. According to her father, they had to report her missing 2 separate times before they were taken seriously, even though anyone could clearly see that Lauren was in danger. Freedom Monitoring said that Bricen's ankle bracelet battery started to go down around 10 a.m. that morning, and after that, he didn't respond to any of their messages. They said they also even tried to contact his mother, but she had not seen or heard from him. Once the tracker was down to 0%, Freedom Monitoring alerted his probation officer, as well as the bonding company. He was once again in violation of his probation conditions. That would also be the day that Lauren was killed. When Lance woke up the following morning, July 3rd, and he hadn't heard back from either his daughter or the police, he again called the Hattiesburg Police Department. He assumed that they were going to try to track Lauren's vehicle, but they didn't. Not until that day, July 3rd at 3 o'clock, when Lauren's dad insisted that they find out where her car was. And finally, Lauren's car would end up being located via her OnStar. That's right, she had OnStar, so it would have been pretty simple for the police to track her the day before, but they didn't. Her car was said to be located at the Wolf River Cemetery, located in Harrison County. Police arrived at the cemetery thinking that they were just conducting a welfare check on Lauren, but her father, who arrived at the same time police did, knew that his daughter was dead. Lauren's car was sitting in the middle of the cemetery, and as police approached it, Bricen allegedly jumped out and ran into the nearby woods. And when the authorities, along with Lauren's father, looked in the back of Lauren's car, they would find her body. She was wrapped up in trash bags and sheets, and she had been brutally beaten to death. Bricen had made her suffer. Lauren's distraught father even helped the coroner lift his daughter's body out of the back seat. Police put out close to 55 law enforcement officials, as well as drones, helicopters, and dogs, all looking for Bricen. They tracked the woods for hours looking for him. Then, after a long 9-hour manhunt, Bricen was finally located. You can see here Bricen running out of the woods right into the arms of law enforcement. Apparently, since the police had Bricen's phone number, they were somehow able to convince him that he was communicating via text message with one of his friends. In this way, they were finally able to lure him out of the woods. Bricen Rivers was finally placed into handcuffs at 11:30 p.m., and he was then charged with murder, then given a $1 million bond. Though I'm surprised they gave him a bond amount at all, given what he did last time. The day that Lauren had been killed, July 2nd, was the day that Bricen was scheduled to go to trial on his aggravated kidnapping charges. Had he been convicted on these charges, Bricen was possibly facing a life sentence. So he knew he was getting thrown back in jail for violating his release order, and he likely wasn't going to be coming out of jail for at least another 20 years, which meant that Bricen had nothing to lose, and he went after Lauren. Lance Johansson said that the criminal justice system in Nashville failed his daughter as well as the rest of the family. He then said, "The world shouldn't work this way. She was really beautiful, super smart. She had dreams and hopes that were larger than life. Everything she did, everything she touched, turned to gold. The best quality about Lauren was that she had a really big heart." Lance also said that the last time that Bricen had brutally beaten and nearly killed his daughter, Lauren had said to her father, "If he gets out and kills me, please find a way to take care of Bentley Joe, Marley, Coco, Mercy, Christian, Caitlin, Kylar, and Mom, her pets, mother, and siblings." So, in order to help make Lauren's final request possible, there has been a GoFundMe set up in her name. A funeral service was held for Lauren Johansen on Saturday, July 13th, 2024, at Bradford O'Keefe Funeral Home in Gulfport, Mississippi. Lauren stood no chance against Bricen. He was determined to kill her. And without help from the police or courts, there wasn't much, if anything, she could do. It's infuriating that Bricen's bond was reduced down to only $150,000 after his brutal assault on Lauren. She almost died that time. And then, on top of that, police knew the history between the two. Yet, for some reason, Lauren's father still had to call them twice to look for his daughter. And all they had to do was call OnStar. Had they done that, she might still be alive today. Unbelievable. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon. So check it out at patreon.com/awickedworld or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims never get forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a case you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email at awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.